This is Terms of Service. I'm CNN tech reporter Claire Duffy. We've all heard the reports or seen the posts from connections on LinkedIn. Tens of thousands of layoffs at companies like Meta, Nike, and UPS, framed as the result of investments or advancements in artificial intelligence. In the first half of 2026, tech companies cut 115,000 jobs around the United States. It's unclear how many of these cuts are truly the result of AI taking on a greater share of the work. In some cases, these companies say they're reallocating money from employees to AI data centers. And experts have questioned whether some corporate leaders might be AI washing job cuts to cover up other issues. But there's no question that AI is rapidly changing work, and there's a lot of pressure for workers to keep up. So how concerned should you be about AI taking your job? And is there anything that you can do about it? I'm here with my colleague Hadas Gold, CNN's AI correspondent. We're going to talk about what kinds of roles are most vulnerable to these shifts and how you can try to AI-proof your job. My conversation with Hadas right after this short break. Hadas Gold, thanks for doing this.
Happy to be here.
So I just want to sort of big picture talk about this threat that we've heard, this concern that we've heard that AI is going to take potentially millions of jobs. How real is that? Is that something that people should genuinely be concerned about, or is there some bit of hyperbole within that?
Yes to both questions. There is definitely going to be, and already is, a disruption because of AI to jobs. Some people might say companies are just using AI as an excuse to do layoffs or efficiencies, and they're just using AI as a reason. And others will say, especially in certain jobs, when you think of things like software development, that there are legitimate tasks that AI can now do that wasn't possible just a few years ago. There was a recent Goldman Sachs report that says something like 16,000 jobs are being lost per month from payroll as a result of AI. But it's hard to know exactly how much are being completely erased because of AI versus maybe positions are being changed. And some people even argue that AI is going to lead to even more people being needed because AI makes things more efficient. So you need more people to be able to manage those. I don't think that either one is 100% right. I definitely think there are positions out there that already today are being eliminated because of AI. It's going to cause quite a bit of disruption, but it's not going to happen tomorrow with the flip of a switch.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've heard so much from Silicon Valley, like, yes, AI will take some jobs, get rid of some jobs, but new jobs will be created. But it does feel like we're in this moment where nobody quite knows what that looks like yet. And so that feels like kind of an out there promise to be relying on at this point.
It's definitely an out there promise. And the companies themselves, I feel like we've gone through a period of time where everybody was like, 2022, ChatGPT, everyone was like, oh my gosh, look at this crazy technology. Then there was a lot of optimism. And now it feels like we're going to reality. Companies are realizing how much it costs to run agents. We've heard from companies like Uber that have blown through their, AI token budgets for the year and already in April. And so I think there's a bit of come back down to earth realization. Okay, this technology can be really great. It can be really useful. It can really change things, but it's not a magic potion that's going to change everything. We still need to integrate it into our systems. People need to learn how to use it and learn how to use it in the best way possible and in a way that makes sense cost-wise, especially right now, because AI is expensive.
Yeah, that trend has been really fascinating to see those companies say, wait a second, maybe actually having human workers is cheaper than relying on the technology.
Right now, that will change as the flow of data and the data centers get built out, that and energy gets figured out, that will change. And I've heard from some people say that they think it's going to become so inexpensive to run these things. They're talking, 10 years in the future, that will change that calculus. But we'll see when that happens.
So what kinds of jobs are being affected at this point? What jobs are most at risk of AI disruption?
So you hear a lot about coders because that's what AI right now is the best at, is software coding. You heard from Dario Amodei, he's the CEO of Anthropic, who said he's heard from engineers who don't write a single line of code themselves anymore and just manage AI agents. But I think that's an important detail. That human is still involved in managing those AI agents, not necessarily writing the code, but you still need somebody who understands what they're doing to be able to make sure that the AI agent is doing its job correctly, is not making hallucinations, knowing how to integrate whatever code they're writing into maybe a system that was written 20 years ago. So that is a perfect example of how AI is totally changing the game when it comes to software development, but you still need a human involved. There was a really interesting op-ed from the CEO of Cloudflare where he said he is laying off 20% of his workforce because of AI, and he was very open about it. And he mapped out exactly why. And he put employees into buckets. There's the builders, there's the sellers, and there's the measurers, at least for their business. He said the builders and the sellers are safe. AI can't yet call up a new customer, develop that relationship, sell them a contract. It might be able to do some very basic elements of that, but not in the same way when you really want to build a good relationship to sell somebody a product or a contract. But he said it's the measures. It is the people in finance, in accounting, in auditing, in legal, in some elements, in compliance that are the most vulnerable. And that's where he's really cutting. Because when you think about what they're doing, it's a lot of taking data, turning it into something else and analyzing it and looking at these numbers. And that's something that AI is very, very good at doing. And so, again, he's not completely wiping it out, but he did say he, the middle managers might be affected as well. And I'm sure also some of the entry level roles. I mean, when I think about my first job in journalism, I was taking raw copy from journalists, writing a headline, writing photo captions, writing social media posts, and just reformatting it and putting it on our website, choosing where it went, and posting social media posts. And AI can do that today.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the entry-level jobs piece because, you mentioned Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei. He has warned that half of all white-collar entry-level jobs could be gone within the next few years. We know that already recent college graduates are having a harder time finding work. How much are they at risk compared to more experienced folks?
I think that's going to be a really kind of hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, especially these companies that they're trying to figure out, well, okay, I could replace a lot of these entry-level roles with these tools that could be very helpful, but you still obviously need somebody to manage them. So you need somebody who has some experience.
And how do you build that talent pipeline?
Exactly. And the talent pipeline is still something that I think you are going to hopefully see companies be aware of the fact that if they want to be able to have those experienced people who can manage an AI agent, you need to train people. I mean, we already hear about how AI agents, I've been hearing this now for like a year, that they are just as good as a first-year law associate. And what are you going to need a first-year law associate for? I don't think that entry-level jobs are going to completely go away, but I think there's definitely going to be fewer of them. And I think that's something that new college graduates are going to have to contend with, and it's going to be a very tough job market going forward. I mean, there are some positive aspects to it. I always tell people if my kids were old enough to be going to college, I would tell them, like, go study a science and really also at the same time study machine learning and study AI and how to be able to merge those two together because the AI and science and research and drug development and disease studying, that section is exploding and is really exciting. And that is something where you would definitely utilize your science background with an AI training background and potentially have some good career options compared to
in the world.
Well, I mean, we were always told, go to college, get a degree in a safe white-collar job, accounting, finance, that's where you're going to make 6 figures a year and it's worth that college debt because you're going to be able to get a good, secure job, be able to afford a house and vacations, all of that. Those are the jobs that are going to be most affected by this AI revolution.
Yeah. I mean, for so many reasons, that promise seems to be crumbling right now. Like, that could be a whole separate conversation, but it does feel like part of the AI backlash that we're now seeing where people said, wait a second, you told me if I took this direction in life that I would be okay. And now you have this technology that is coming in and disrupting all of that. With all this being said, are there categories of jobs that are safe right now? And for listeners whose roles may be more at risk, is there anything that you can do to future-proof your career? That's after the break. Are there people whose jobs are definitely safe right now? People who are listening and they're like, okay, we can tune out now because I'm good.
Anything that you have to literally be physically present for is safe. So healthcare industry, nurses and doctors and surgeons and care people, skilled trades, we are far away from the days when a robot can come change the leaky pipe in your basement. That's not going to happen anytime soon. Even hospitality, things like that, those are all going to stay safe because people will still expect to be dealing directly with the human. And again, robotics, as exciting as robotics the industry is developing and changing, a robot can still barely load a dishwasher. It takes them hours, so we're far away from those. But if you think about your tasks, if you look at your job and you say, okay, how much of my job is sitting at a computer and taking data from one source, looking at it, analyzing it, and turning it into something else, a report or something like that. That is most susceptible to AI compared to, okay, in our jobs, we're reporters. Okay, so if we're just doing a story where we're looking at an earnings report and we're writing a story about an earnings report from a company, that's something AI can do today, this very moment. It's easy. But our jobs also include what we're doing right now, interviewing people, building sources, going out, on the street, talking to people, getting the vibe of a situation. I'm a former foreign correspondent, so going into the middle of a conflict and really understanding what's happening, AI can't do that and won't be able to do that anytime soon. So that aspect of the job is very safe. And so I always tell people, focus on those aspects of your job and build up those skills.
How can somebody start to figure out what parts of my job are maybe at risk here? And once you've done that thinking, what do you do with that?
If your job is just a series of tasks, so break down your tasks every day, every week, every month. What do you do? And you can make a column. One column is those AI vulnerable tasks. So those tasks where you're sitting at a computer and, like I said, taking data from one form, turning it into something else, maybe analyzing it, turning it into a report. And then those tasks that are not AI susceptible. So if you're a salesperson, the calling somebody up on a phone and building new leads and going to meet somebody in person and walking them through your sales floor and showing them what you've got or anything like that, those are not susceptible. And you can, not to discount, but start actually using AI to maybe even help you automate those parts of your job that are AI vulnerable, because that can show to your company, look, I can be way more efficient because I've automated this part of my job so that I can have time to focus on what AI can't do, which is that networking aspect of my sales job. Or I now have time to call 20 extra more prospective clients than I did before because I don't have to do my expense reports.
Right. I still am waiting for AI to be able to file my expense reports. That is the one thing that I wanted to do more than anything, and it is not quite there yet, but I hear you. How can somebody go about learning more about what AI can actually do for them? Because I think for some people, they're like, look, I'm busy at work. I'm trying to just do my job. How do I figure out how to automate parts of it with AI? What tools do I use? How should people learn about how this technology works and how it can apply to the work that they do?
Ironically, you can go to the AIs and ask them and just go to any of your favorite chatbots and it's not going to be perfect, but play around with it and talk to it like you would be asking for advice, saying, hey, I want to learn how to build an AI agent who can monitor gas prices for me because I manage a fleet of trucks and I want to know, what are the ebbs and flows of gas prices and when might be the best time to buy. And so walk me through step by step how to build an AI agent which can do that. And it will. And again, it might not be perfect. You'll have to play around with it. But oftentimes those chatbots can sometimes be the best resources to help you learn what they can do for you and make sure that you know that not only are there different chatbots, there's ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok and all these, but they also have within them their own different levels. They have paid tiers. They have certain modes that are much better for things that involve, analyzing large amounts of raw data. They have other modes that are better for fast, quick tasks, and just play around with it and get to know it like you would any sort of system. I mean, when you think about your first time using Facebook, how did you get to know it? How did you figure out what the groups were and what messaging was like? It's just a tool just like that. And as you get to know it, you'll be more comfortable with it. But the fun part about it is you can just ask it questions and say, hey, I'm trying to use you to do XYZ. How do I do that? And it can help you figure that out. But always remember that it's still a tool. It's not infallible. It's not always right. It will make mistakes and hallucinations. And so you always, always, always still have to check your work.
And how important is it for people to be mindful of what kinds of work information they are uploading and feeding into these systems and making sure that that is secure when they're using it for work?
That's a really good point because a lot of workplaces right now are still trying to figure out, they really want people to use AI, but there's a lot of concerns about, data privacy and security and what you're uploading and who can access that, what they can see. Because you have to remember, you're not talking into a black box. you have to remember that this data is all going somewhere. It's often being then later used for the systems to train themselves, to get better at something. And so there's a lot of security considerations to take into mind. The first step is just to ask your employer, what tools do we have integrated into our own cybersecurity system that are safe for me to play around with and use? And most likely there is something that they are using. And be very, very careful of uploading, your company's proprietary data into an off-the-shelf, Gemini chatbot, just because I'm sure there will come a day where there will be some sort of cybersecurity hacking incident where people are able to pull the chat logs of a bunch of people from one of these chatbots.
Have you built an agent to do any part of your work?
I have played around with building agents to monitor AI news for me. We have Google alerts and the like, but it would be nice to get kind of a digest, almost what I used to do as an intern, where you would read all the clippings and then you could write up like a little one pager of here's kind of the trends, what people are talking about. I'm still playing around with it. I haven't perfected it yet. And, there's some technical things that I'm trying to make it just the easiest for me, which is like a button that I can press on my browser and it will take me there. But it's working. Different AI systems are better for different things. And so I'm picking and choosing based off of, the vibes I'm getting from these different systems and what they're good for.
Yeah, they do all have kind of their own personalities.
Oh, 100%.
Right? It feels like you have to learn how to use AI to survive in this AI era argument is one that we've heard from a lot of people in the tech industry, which also feels a little self-serving for the people that are building this technology. And a few years ago, we heard them saying, you got to learn how to code. And now that job has become almost obsolete. Can we trust them, or are they just saying this because they want everybody using their technology?
I think there is much more truth to you should embrace and at least understand AI compared to the coding. And the reason is that the barrier to entry for actually learning how to code properly is quite high compared to these AI tools. And various applications that you can use AI for in any workplace are much more broad than the skills of like learning how to code. And it's coming. We've already seen it coming to a lot of workplaces. So whether you like it or not, you might as well at least understand it. I'm not saying you got to love it. I'm not saying you have to become like an AI savant. But if you're concerned about your job and, AI taking your job, think about it from the employer's perspective. And they're like, okay, well, I want to integrate this tool. It's great. And you have happened to spend the last 6 months really understanding AI agents. You've managed to automate parts of your work so that you have more time for other things. And they're looking at candidates for a position. And they're saying, oh, wow, well, this person already knows how to do it. I don't have to, they're already familiar. They're comfortable with it. They've shown how they're becoming more efficient. I'm going to take that candidate over somebody that has absolutely no knowledge and has refused to work with this tool at all and is still continuing to do things the old way. Because again, this is coming, whether you like it or not. And we have yet to see how much it's going to so drastically change the workplace. I don't think we're going to be in the land of, AI agents and robots running everything. But it's going to change things, at least to some degree.
Yeah, that was a question for me. Like, we've seen college graduates booing AI at graduation ceremonies. I can imagine there are a number of people who are just saying, like, no, I am not going to use this stuff. I'm just going to keep doing my work as is. Is there something to be said for that, or are those people in a potentially bad spot?
I totally understand why the graduates are booing AI being mentioned. There was one quote from a graduate at, I think it was University of Arizona, was one of these graduations. I think Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, was talking about AI and he got booed. And one of the students gave a quote, I think it was to the Associated Press, where she just said, we just spent the last so many years being told never to use AI in our work in college, really like being talked down to about it. And now here they are telling us to embrace it and use it. And I think that's a big challenge for the educational system, which is like, how do you balance this tool and learning and like knowing how to use it versus the actual need to learn how to do things yourselves with your own two hands. And I think it's important to be able to do both. I think it's important that everyone should know how to do by yourself everything that you're having the AI do. Like, you and I should still know how to write a report off of earnings report from a company, how to learn how to write an article about that. We know how to do that. Okay. And we can have an AI do that. Just like how we all had to learn how to do long division and calculus when we all have calculators that can do that for us. And so I think that's still an important balance for people to understand.
I wanted to underscore this point that Hadas is making here about how it's important to know how to do the core parts of your job so that even if you decide to use AI to take on certain tasks, you'll have the ability to tell if its output is accurate and high quality. This is especially important because AI is not exactly like a calculator. With a calculator, if you put in the same equation, you're always going to get the same answer, and it's basically certain to be right. But AI still periodically gets things wrong. Should people be thinking about wholesale career changes at this point? Like, I can imagine we've just heard these sort of extreme predictions from Silicon Valley about where this is going. And I can imagine some people are saying, like, should I be fully reconsidering what I'm doing, especially maybe if you're early in your career? How should people be thinking about that? Or is it really more just thinking differently about how you're approaching your existing career?
I would hate to think that I'm qualified to give every person like a blanket advice on whether they should switch their careers. But I would argue, when I think about using AI in my job, I think about kind of a hybrid. Okay, I'm not going to completely change my career, but I'm going to really integrate it into what I'm doing or figure out how I can adjust what I'm doing to better utilize this or figure out how to work with it in the best way possible. So I wouldn't necessarily say, okay, if you're an accountant, completely change
go into
your
healthcare
job, go
or
into
something.
Completely different, unless you want to. I mean, go for it. Go be a hairdresser or something.
I know I've heard of like a half dozen people in the last month who are going to seminary.
Oh, wow.
Who like are just completely saying like, I'm going to go in a fully different direction, which it probably has more to do with like the state of the world broadly than AI. But it is fascinating. Like, it does feel like a moment when people are saying, well, should I reconsider what I'm doing?
Even in the religious services, there's a lot of AI coming into it. And so they should be aware.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think I would. When I think about people like, my parents are retired, but if my dad was still working, I don't think I would say leave your career. He was actually in software development, but I would definitely say like learn how to use this and modulate what you're doing, kind of do a metamorphosis of what you're doing into something that incorporates it. Because, cynically, like we said, when we're talking about a company is going through and doing a wholesale clean out, they might be more likely to hold on to those who actually know how to use this tool that they're trying to integrate into their company.
Yeah. Well, Hadas Gold, thank you so much for doing this. This is such important and useful advice, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
For more tips from Hadas about how to AI-proof your job, you can check out her article linked in our show notes. I also want to acknowledge the very real impacts that the recent wave of layoffs have had on working Americans and their families. While real good can come from trying to learn this new technology and make your own work processes more efficient, most employees have little to no control over layoffs. That said, if you want to learn more about how to incorporate AI into your work, Hadas suggests starting with asking AI itself for advice. Describe the tasks that are part of your regular workday and ask which of those could be automated and how to do that. That's it for this week's episode of Terms of Service. I'm Claire Duffy. Talk to you next week.